If you're one of those people who want to stop Brexit, reverse the EU referendum, any of those things, then you need a much better strategy than the one that I'm currently seeing at the moment. I am in the middle of the biggest social media firestorm I think I've ever been in. It's like a non-stop Twitter storm. It is way worse, way more obsessive and unrelenting than anything I got from some people on the left at the height of my disillusionment with Jeremy Corbyn. So I've been called the C word, P word, W word, 2 different T words, that I should shut the F up, sorry.
Shut the fuck up!
That I'm a traitor, an appeaser, a dangerous man, a fascist Brexit enabler, that I'm an apologist for anti-immigration bile, despite probably one of my biggest ever passions, what I've done over the last few years on these videos, in print, on TV, on radio, on social media, in public rallies, constantly taking on xenophobia, but apparently not. That I'm trying to suck up to Jeremy Corbyn, that I'm having a nervous breakdown or somehow I'm mentally ill. Yeah, I mean, do you know what? That's the kind of thing you used to say in Stalinist Russia about opponents, that actually the reason they were dissenting is they were mentally ill. And as somebody who kind of thinks mental health is something we should take seriously, that we should take away the stigma of mental health, I think deploying it to attack political opponents is a little bit unsavoury, I have to say. That I support a hard Brexit, even though there's literally no evidence for that on record. That I'm flip-flopping, which is an accusation I've got from people who used to call me a dogmatic ideologue. We already live in a country where people find it very difficult to disagree with each other in good faith. They can't accept that people have different points of view in good faith. There has to be ulterior motives, or they've got to come up with some other, reflects on their character and who they are as people. We've already had the right-wing Brexiteers try to smear Remain voters as being saboteurs and the enemy within, and to equate dissent with treason. Hello, Keir. A lot of the people who are being particularly abusive or just rude or whatever, I'm not saying are representative of all of these people who are very angry and frustrated and upset about Brexit, which I understand and relate to completely. And I'm not going to say that because, ironically, some of the people behaving in this way used to tar the entire left by saying they were this abusive, rabble, intolerant and all the rest. About a year or so before the referendum, I said the left needed to debate whether or not we should support staying in the EU. I had a whole range of criticisms of the EU, every single one I stand by. But it was my decision, which I came to very, very quickly, months before the referendum, that leaving the EU would be very, very bad for this country.
The total number of votes cast in favour of leave was 17,410,742.
Now, on the day Britain voted to leave the EU, that was one of the worst days of my life, as I'm sure it was one of the worst days of many people watching this video. It was horrendous. It made many of us look at our country and wonder what its future was, what we'd become, all of that. After that referendum result, my view was that we had to challenge the bigotry and hatred that had been unleashed by that campaign, that we had to stop the delegitimisation of those who'd voted Remain, that their voices must be heard, that we had to push back against the attempt to make dissent look like treason in any shape or form. But it was my view from the day we lost that what we then had to do was get the best possible Brexit deal. That just saying we should overturn the referendum result in any shape or form was not a realistic course of action at all. My own preference is that we would stay, for example, in the customs union and the single market. I accept there are problems with that position, because then you end up with a situation where we have to accept EU laws, but we have no say over them. But equally, I'm aware that if we just go out the single market and the customs union, that could inflict economic damage, which would make millions of people suffer even more than they already have over the last few years. It's about how you reconcile a democratic decision we do not like, many of us, with avoiding a disastrous Brexit. Are there any easy answers to that? No. Of course there isn't. It's a mess. This country is in a mess, and it's in a mess because of a Conservative Party which, because of their own spectacularly catastrophic self-destructive decisions, but they're attempts to get partisan advantage.
I do believe it's in the national interest to have a period of stability.
And now we're an international laughingstock. That is a mess, and we have to work out how we deal with that mess. Now, some of you keep tweeting me over and over again, and you're just saying, well, it's an advisory referendum. Now, if you go round the British public now, actually however people voted, and say it was just an advisory referendum, technically, legally, and therefore it can just be disregarded, tough, just look at the expressions you're going to get on people's faces.
If that's your policies, I hope you get beat. I hope you get 6 seats.
You can't say the referendum campaign was full of lies on the part of the Leave campaign, which it was, and then say, well, even though the government and the opposition said that whatever people voted, that result would be honoured, and then afterwards go, well, actually nonsense, we're just going to overturn it. That's not a realistic proposition at all.
That's it. A bit more.
Stop!
Stop!
There's a world of difference between Nigel Farage, who spent years scapegoating and demonising migrants, who is a right-wing Thatcherite who wants a hard Brexit and, you know, wants to roll back the state and privatise things and deregulate and all the rest, and someone like myself who signed the Labour campaign for free movement because I still believe in free movement in Europe if possible, because I've spent years saying that immigration is not the cause of people's woes, that we need investment, not cuts, we need strong workers' rights. Those are the sorts of things that will change people's lives and stop people's wages declining and all the rest. But you would think, by the way some people are speaking, that there is just no difference, that if you're a Remain voter who thinks we've got to, and there are millions of Remain voters who think this, that we've got to make the best of the referendum result possible, are just the same as hardcore right-wing Brexiteers, then how are you going to win people over? It is a tough ask to turn over a referendum result in a short space of time. There was a big gap between the referendum we had in the 70s and the referendum we had this time. And if you want that to happen, then you need to build an optimistic, inspiring movement that wins people over, not angrily denouncing heretics and traitors and portraying anyone who disagrees with as being Farage's evil, more extreme brother. Now, there are some saying have a new centrist party. Look, let me put this diplomatically, shall I, if I can. The Lib Dems stood on a Stop Brexit centrist platform in this election, and the public just didn't want it. You know, people didn't like what was being sold. If there's going to be a new party now under this current electoral system, what do you think it's realistically going to do? If it's just held together by one thing, Remain, then it will collapse because of its own internal contradictions. If it's supporting the old, you know, Osborne so-called centrism, which was about cuts and all the rest, I would put it to you that those policies are one of the main reasons we voted to leave the EU, because it meant declining living standards and lower wages for so many people. They got an opportunity to vote against the status quo and they took it. I'd say to the kind of hard Remainers, if you like, that you're making the same mistake of every purist movement in history, which is to antagonise and demonise anyone who disagrees with you, therefore isolating yourself even further. You have a cause, go and fight for it. And if the public mood changes, then, you know, who knows? Maybe we would end up with a second referendum if Brexit's so calamitous and real buyer's remorse kicks in and, you know, many of the Remain voters who accept the referendum result go, no, we've got to, you know, this is a terrible disaster. But it's not going to happen unless you campaign in a way which doesn't alienate and drive people away. That doesn't demonise people who happen, in good faith, to have a different opinion to you. We do have the opportunity to get a genuine transformative government in this country which can overturn an order which is rigged in favour of a tiny elite rather than building a society in favour of the vast majority. If divisions over Brexit are allowed to destroy that opportunity, then I think that would be beyond tragic. So, come on everyone, let's have a group hug. Thanks for watching the video. Please leave the comments. Let's see if we can have a nice, rational, balanced discussion about this. I'm sure we can. Give it a go. As ever, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.